Have you ever had that moment where you just stop and ask yourself, what am I even doing? You're working hard, you're staying busy, you're showing up, but something feels off. You're tired, you're drained, and no matter how much you achieve, it doesn't feel like enough. That's not failure, that's not laziness, that's a signal that you're out of alignment. You feel lost because you don't know your why. See, most people don't feel lost because they're doing nothing. They feel lost because they're doing everything without understanding the deeper reason behind it. We live life chasing goals, ticking boxes, following routines, but without a purpose, it all starts to feel empty. You're not broken. You're just disconnected from what really matters to you. And here's the truth. Most of the time, the goals you're chasing, they were handed to you by someone else. Society told you success means money, status, titles, likes, attention. And you believed it, so you ran toward it. You worked for it. And when you got some of it, you wondered why it didn't feel the way you thought it would, because it wasn't yours. It wasn't rooted in your beliefs. It wasn't aligned with your truth. Another reason you feel lost, you're mistaking busyness for direction. You wake up, you grind, you hustle, you move fast, but you don't know where you're going. That's like being on a treadmill thinking you're traveling the world. You're moving, you wake up every day and push yourself. You work hard, you try to be productive, you try to succeed. But at the end of it all, there's this feeling you can't shake, this quiet emptiness, this sense that something isn't quite right. You've done everything you were told would make you happy. So why does it still feel like something's missing? It's because you're chasing what other people value, not what you truly believe in. In the time we're young, we're taught what success looks like. Get good grades, get a respectable job, climb the ladder, make money, buy nice things, earn recognition. The world paints this picture and tells us, follow this and you'll be fulfilled. And so we do. We follow the path, not because it lights us up, but because it's what we're supposed to do. We become experts at performing. We know how to fit into the system, how to meet expectations, how to present ourselves in a way that's impressive to others. We learn how to get approval, how to look successful even if we don't feel successful. And here's the problem. When your life is built on other people's definitions of success, your victories will never feel like yours. You'll accomplish things, but they won't satisfy you. You'll check all the boxes, but it still won't feel like enough. That's not because you're ungrateful. It's because deep down, none of it is rooted in your own values. You can't feel fulfilled living someone else's dream. And what makes this even harder is that we live in a world that constantly tells us to look outward for validation. Social media floods us with highlight reels of other people's lives, people flaunting their wins, showing off their lifestyles, their titles, their applause. You start to think, if I had that, maybe I'd be happy too. So you chase it. You pursue things not because they're meaningful to you, but because they look meaningful to everyone else. But the truth is, the more you try to live up to someone else's standard, the further you drift from your own. You start silencing your own voice, your own instincts, your own purpose. You start saying yes to things you don't care about. You start living a life that looks right on the outside, but feels wrong on the inside. Eventually, you wake up and realize you don't know who you are anymore. You've spent so much time trying to become what the world wants you to be, you've forgotten what you actually want. That's when the feeling of being lost starts to creep in, not because you're weak or unmotivated, but because your life is no longer aligned with your truth. The real tragedy isn't failure, it's success in the wrong direction. So ask yourself, are you chasing goals that matter to you, or are you chasing them because they'll impress others? Are you building a life based on what makes you proud, or what makes other people clap? When you stop chasing what others value and start living by what you believe in, everything changes. Your energy comes back. Your passion wakes up. Life starts to feel real again. Because finally, you're not performing, and that is the only kind of success that means anything. You don't need more motivation. You need more alignment. And that begins the moment you choose your truth over their approval. Every day we're bombarded with messages that tell us to hustle harder, grind longer, stay busy. We wear busyness like a badge of honor, as if being constantly occupied somehow proves our worth. We fill our schedules to the brim, race through tasks, and fall into bed exhausted, but still we don't feel fulfilled. Still we feel stuck. That's because we've confused being busy with making real progress. Busyness and progress are not the same thing. Being busy means you're doing a lot. Progress means you're moving forward. And you can be very busy without getting anywhere at all. Think about it like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you're moving, your heart is racing, but you're still in the same place. That's what life feels like when you're consumed with tasks that aren't connected to a bigger direction. The hard truth is that many of us stay busy as a way to avoid facing the deeper questions. It's easier to fill every hour with meetings, errands, notifications, and endless to-dos than it is to stop and ask, why am I doing this? What am I working toward? Is this actually meaningful? We stay in motion because stillness feels scary. Stillness means reflection. Stillness means listening to that quiet voice inside that might tell us something we don't want to hear. So instead, we keep going. We tell ourselves, at least I'm being productive. But productivity without purpose is just distraction in disguise. And here's the trap. The world rewards busyness. It praises the person who answers emails at midnight, who works through lunch, who never takes a break. We get applause for showing up, for grinding, for staying on. But nobody stops to ask whether the direction we're heading in even matters. You could climb an entire mountain only to realize it was the wrong one. Progress requires intention. It means doing less, but doing it better. It means saying no to things that don't serve you, even if they make you look impressive. It means being brave enough to pause, zoom out, and ask, what's the point of all this effort? Because if your energy isn't aligned with your values, your movement is just noise. You might be checking off boxes, completing projects, chasing metrics, but if it's not tied to a deeper purpose, it won't fulfill you. And eventually, you'll feel burnt out. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too much of the wrong things. Progress isn't just about speed. It's about direction. It's about clarity. It's about knowing what matters most and focusing your energy there. Sometimes real progress looks like slowing down. Sometimes it looks like resting, reflecting, rethinking. Because clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from consciousness. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, drained, or like you're constantly working but not getting anywhere, pause and ask yourself, am I actually making progress or am I just busy? Am I building something meaningful or am I just surviving the day? Busyness might make you feel important in the short term, but purpose will give you peace in the long run. And peace, that deep sense of fulfillment, is only found when your actions match your values. When your days are filled with meaningful work, not just movement. You weren't meant to live your life in a blur. You were meant to move with intention. And that starts by choosing progress over performance. It's so easy to feel behind in today's world. You open your phone and instantly you're flooded with people showcasing their wins. Someone just bought a house, someone got promoted, someone's traveling the world, someone hit 1 million followers. You see their success and you start questioning your own. You wonder why your life doesn't look like that. You wonder what you're doing wrong. But here's what you forget. You're comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. What you see is the polished result, not the messy process. You don't see the years of doubt, failure, rejection, and growth that it took for that person to get where they are. You just see the highlight reel. And it messes with your head. It makes you feel like you're behind when really you're just getting started. Everyone's journey is different. Some people figure it out early. Some people take time. Some people change directions more than once. That doesn't make one path better than the other. It just makes them different. But the pressure to catch up is real. We live in a culture obsessed with speed. We praise those who succeed young, who make it fast. So if you're not hitting certain milestones by a certain age, you start feeling like a failure. You start doubting your pace. You start forcing things that aren't ready yet. And that's dangerous because growth doesn't happen on a schedule. It happens when you're ready for it. You can't rush your journey. You can only live it. And the moment you try to force success to happen faster than it should, you compromise the quality of your progress. You skip steps. You fake confidence. You make decisions out of fear and comparison, not alignment. And that leads to burnout, not breakthrough. The truth is, where you are right now is exactly where you're meant to be. Maybe you're learning, maybe you're unlearning. Maybe you're planting seeds no one else can see yet. And that's okay. Just because your progress isn't visible doesn't mean it's not happening. Real growth is often quiet, slow, and internal, long before it becomes something the world can recognize. And while you're busy comparing your timeline to someone else's, someone out there is looking at you and thinking you've got it figured out. That's how misleading comparison is. It distorts your perspective. It convinces you that you're not doing enough, when in fact you're doing exactly what you need to do, showing up for your life in your own way. Every person you admire once had no clue what they were doing. They struggled, they failed, they questioned themselves, just like you are now. And just like you will grow through it too. So give yourself permission to be where you are. Respect your own pace. Stay committed to your own chapter, because your story matters, and it's unfolding in a way that's uniquely yours. Your chapter may not be flashy right now. It may not be Instagram worthy, but that doesn't mean it's not meaningful. The most powerful parts of any story often happen before the breakthrough, the quiet effort, the daily discipline, the resilience to keep going when no one's clapping. Stop measuring your worth by someone else's journey. You're not late. You're not behind. You're building something real. One page, one chapter, one step at a time. And when you finally reach your own chapter 20, it won't matter how long it took. It'll matter that you stayed true, stayed patient, and never gave up on your story. There's a voice inside you that knows the truth. You felt it before. In those quiet moments in the pit of your stomach, in the back of your mind. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It whispers. But you hear it. You know it's there. The problem is you've learned to ignore it. Life has a way of drowning out that inner voice. There's so much noise around you. Expectations, opinions, pressure, fear. Everyone has something to say about how you should live your life. Your family wants you to take the safe path. Society wants you to follow the script. Social media wants you to keep up with appearances. And somewhere along the way, your voice, the one that actually knows you, gets buried. You start making decisions that don't feel right but look right. You say yes when you want to say no. You pursue goals that don't excite you. You stay in situations that don't fulfill you. Why? Because the world taught you to trust logic over instinct, image over authenticity, approval over alignment. But deep down, something feels off. You can't explain it, but it's there. It shows up as restlessness, as anxiety, as frustration. It shows up as burnout. It shows up as that nagging question, is this really it? That's your inner voice trying to break through. Not to destroy your life, but to save it. Because that voice, it's not random. It's your truth. It's the most honest part of you. It knows what matters to you. It knows what lights you up. It knows what you're capable of, even when you don't believe in yourself. But you've learned to silence it because following it might mean doing something uncomfortable. It might mean disappointing others. It might mean starting over. And that's scary. So you push it down. You tell yourself you'll listen to it later. But the longer you ignore that voice, the louder the noise becomes. And eventually, you don't even recognize what your truth sounds like anymore. That's how people get lost, not because they're lazy, not because they lack motivation, but because they stopped trusting themselves. They let the world talk them out of their own wisdom. No one else can define your path for you. No one else knows what you're here to do. They can give advice, they can share their opinions, but they can't feel what you feel. They don't know what makes your heart beat faster. They don't know what gives you energy and what drains it. Only you know that. And that's why you have to listen. Listening doesn't always mean quitting your job or making some drastic change overnight. Sometimes it's as simple as getting quiet, turning down the volume of the world, asking yourself what you really want, not what's expected, not what's easy, not what looks good, but what feels right. And you reconnect with that voice, everything changes. You stop chasing things that don't matter, you stop performing, you stop pretending, you start living in alignment. And when you do, life gets lighter, you feel more peace, more clarity, more strength, because you're not fighting yourself anymore. Approval. You don't need more advice, you don't need more approval. You need more honesty with yourself. That voice you've been ignoring, it's still there. Still waiting, still guiding, still believing in you. You don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to start. Listening, you walk through life with this quiet pressure sitting on your shoulders, the pressure to have it all figured out. You tell yourself you should know exactly what you're doing, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. You believe that by now you're supposed to have a clear plan, a straight path, a polished answer when someone asks, so, what's next? But you don't, and deep down that scares you. You think not knowing means you're falling behind. You think uncertainty is a sign of weakness. You think everyone else has it all together, and that you're the only one who's lost, confused, and questioning everything. But here's the truth. No one has it all figured out. Some are just better at pretending. We've been taught that life is supposed to follow a linear path. School, job, success, stability. We're told to choose one direction and stick to it. as if our first decision is supposed to be the final one, as if one version of ourselves should last forever. But life doesn't work like that. People grow, people change, dreams evolve, and so does your path. Yet we cling to this idea that we're supposed to have all the answers from the start. So when we don't, we panic, we force decisions, we chase things we don't truly want. We say yes to jobs, relationships, and opportunities, not because they feel right, but because they fit the script. Because we think, well, at least this looks like progress. But clarity doesn't come before the journey. It comes from the journey. You discover who you are by doing, by trying, by failing, by learning. You figure it out not in theory, but in motion. And sometimes not having the answers is exactly what opens the door to something better than you ever imagined. The danger in trying to have it all figured out is that you become obsessed with certainty. You get so focused on locking down the plan that you stop paying attention to the present. You miss the signs. You ignore your instincts. You silence that voice inside that says, this doesn't feel right, because you're too busy trying to make everything look right. And then what happens? You end up on a path that might impress others, but slowly drains you. You become successful on paper, but disconnected in your heart. That's not clarity. That's performance. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. In fact, it means you're awake. It means you're open. It means you're still asking questions. And that's powerful. The people who grow the most are the ones who allow themselves to stay curious, who don't rush the process, who give themselves the grace to evolve. It's okay to explore. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to say, I don't know yet. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. So breathe. Let go of the idea that your life needs to be perfectly mapped out right now. Let go of the timelines and the pressure. You are not a failure for being unsure. You are human. You don't need to know the whole story. You just need to take the next step and trust that with every step, the path becomes a little clearer. One day, you'll look back and realize you were never lost. You were just becoming. And everything you thought you needed to have figured out unfolded exactly when it was meant to. Wake up, go through the motions, check off your tasks, and push through the day. Maybe you're achieving things. Maybe you're productive. From the outside, it might even look like you're doing well. But inside, there's this quiet disconnect, a sense that something is missing, a lack of meaning you can't quite put into words. And that's because you don't know your why. You're doing a lot, but you don't know why you're doing it. You're climbing a ladder, but you're not sure where it leads. You're busy, but not fulfilled. That's not laziness. That's not failure. That's a lack of purpose. Your why is the reason behind the work. It's the deeper cause that gives your actions meaning. It's what fuels resilience, focus, and long-term joy. When you know your why, even the hard days feel worth it, but when you don't, even success feels empty. The world doesn't teach us to start with why. It teaches us to chase results, money, status, recognition, achievement. We're told to figure out what we want and how to get it. But no one asks, why does this matter to you? And if you don't know that answer, you can get everything you thought you wanted and still feel lost. Without your why, goals become obligations, work becomes draining, life becomes a checklist, and eventually you burn out, not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing it without meaning. You see, purpose doesn't come from what you do, it comes from knowing why you do it. And that's different for everyone. For some, it's impact. For others, it's family. For some, it's creating. For others, it's solving problems. Your why is personal. It's rooted in your values, your story, your heart. And when you lose touch with it, everything starts to feel off, even if things look fine on the surface. Maybe you took a job because it was smart. Maybe you pursued a path because it was safe. Maybe you built a life based on what other people wanted for you, and now you're wondering why you feel stuck. It's because your life isn't anchored in something real. You're not lacking motivation, you're lacking connection. Finding your why isn't about having some big dramatic revelation. It's about getting honest. It's about asking deeper questions. What do I care about? What kind of impact do I want to have? What drives me? What makes me feel alive, even on the hardest days? Sometimes the answers aren't immediate. That's okay. Purpose isn't a destination. It's a compass. It's something you uncover through reflection, experience, and listening to yourself without judgment. And once you do find your why, everything starts to shift. You become more focused, more energized, more fulfilled. You stop chasing what's flashy and start building what's meaningful. You stop measuring your life by how busy you are and start measuring it by how aligned you are. Your why won't make life easier, but it will make it clearer. And that clarity will carry you through uncertainty, through failure, through fear, because you'll know what you're fighting for. So if you feel disconnected right now, don't panic. Don't numb it. Don't brush it off. Listen to that feeling. It's not there to hurt you. It's there to wake you up. Because deep down, you don't want a perfect life. You want a purposeful one. And that starts the moment you stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, why do I want this in the first place?